We have a small piece of that puzzle, and our piece is looking pretty good, but the rest of the puzzle's not looking real good.
Good and bad news in the fight against the Las Conchas fire, which is almost certain to become the largest fire in New Mexico history. Good afternoon. In just 5 days, the fire near Los Alamos has grown to more than 92,700 acres.
And with the winds now kicking up again, the threat remains very real. At last report, the fire continues to be very aggressive in some spots, especially to the north of Los Alamos. After the arrival of reinforcements last night, more than 1,000 firefighters are now trying to stop this fire. But the Las Conchas is still only 3% contained, and it is on the verge of becoming the largest fire in state history. The 2003 Dry Lakes Complex fire down in the Gila burned at 94,580 acres, but Las Conchas is only 1,500 acres behind that and appears certain to pass it.
Now, here's a better look at the actual footprint of the Las Conchas fire and where it's burned. Now, the chief says yesterday alone, this part in purple that you see here, that is where the fire burned yesterday. He says it burned between 4 and 5 acres north. Right in its path is the Santa Clara Pueblo. At last calculation, it was about 7 miles from the heart of the Pueblo, but at this point has already reached, we're told, sacred ceremonial land. Now, it has moved into the Los Alamos Canyon, which is right in this area here, where that purple is, also a little bit of red. Now, that is a big concern because that is the canyon that actually leads into Los Alamos. Also, you can see the progression of the fire over these 5 days. This yellow area here, that's where the fire started. Over here, Las Conchas, that is where the actual origin is. Then the orange area is where it burned on the second day. Then the red area on the third day. And then the purple, again, is where it burned yesterday. Again, it is over 92,000 acres.
Well, while the fire is active throughout, it is really moving up to the north.
The fight is so intense there right now that it has become one of the big focuses for firefighters today. We've received word from Santa Clara Pueblo that the fire has now moved, as we said, into sacred ceremonial land. News 13's Dean Staley joins us live with a look at the fight there.
Well, Kim, I'm in Los Alamos, and I have to tell you, the winds here all day have been pretty steady, between 15 and 20 miles per hour. They have come up dramatically in just the last few minutes. You can see and smell the smoke in the air in a way that you haven't been seeing or smelling it all day here. Now, in the last 24 hours, this fire has run 5 miles to the north, chewing up more than 22,000 new acres. The good news is that firefighters have been able to hold the line along the eastern flank of the fire for the most part. The bad news is that the fire has made its way down, as you mentioned, into the Santa Clara drainage on the Santa Clara Pueblo. That fire, in fact, is backing down that canyon to the east right now, and because of that, firefighters are rushing to shift their resources to the north.
We are moving resources north, but we are as well backfilling behind those resources to make sure that everything we've got as far as an anchor is covered.
So firefighters continue to anchor that eastern flank of the fire. The big concerns right now, because of these winds, the concern of the fire pushing down east along that Santa Clara drainage, and of course also to the north. We should also tell you, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier, the sacred Chicoma Mountain, which is a very important mountain to the Santa Clara people, was burned, and the fire has moved, we understand, beyond that peak. That peak at about 11,500 feet, the highest in the Jemez. We'll have more on that part of the fire. Firefighters knew it was important, but they had to get out of the way last night and today as that fire pushed north. We'll have more on that coming up at 4:30. Back to you.
Okay, thanks, Dean. Now, it may be days before firefighters are able to fully assess the damage to the Santa Clara drainage. County Public Works crews are actively working in that area to remove sediment in anticipation of the increased runoff when the rains do come.
One of the unhappy surprises for firefighters has been that areas previously burned by Cerro Grande and other fires are burning again. Those places have not completely regrown, but there has been enough time for new brush and trees and grass to grow, and that has been igniting. And old and dead and down tree trunks that were scorched by the earlier fires are also igniting. So those areas are not providing as much of a buffer against these new fires as firefighters had hoped.
The burn scars are burning, and that's unusual. We're just seeing activity. The dead and downs are less than 3%. It doesn't get any drier than that. So the humidity in those logs is such that any fire, they're torching off on us. That's an unusual fire behavior.
One good thing is that the fires don't usually crown in burned out areas because the new growth there is not tall enough for that. When fires do crown, that is jump from tree to treetop, they are much more intense and much more dangerous.